Yeah, welcome to today's community call slash AMA. Today we are joined by Anteater from Euler. Now, you guys know Euler Protocol. Huge during the last cycle, huge during this cycle. I think they actually surpassed their all-time highs of last cycle, this cycle, which is phenomenal. Moving to base chain, already on base chain, and moving to a bunch of chains. Actually, I saw some contracts deployed on Sonic. I saw some contracts deployed on the Uniswap chain, which is kind of fun. And then you guys have like a bunch of different markets. So let's just dive into all of the things Euler. But before we do that, Ant, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself and your role over at the protocol.
Yeah, nice to meet you, everyone. So my name is Antoine, actually. It's like French for Anthony, and so that's why I put the little ant in one. Yeah, so I've been in the space for 5 years now, full time. I used to trade a little bit before when I had a traditional job in finance, and yeah, I joined Euler a year and a half ago to lead BD there. And what does it mean on a daily basis? It means try to help anywhere I can that is not technical or development because I'm not great there. It goes from helping creators get on board, help them with finding the right assets, design these assets, think about how the incentives could work, try to educate LPs and users like yourselves in your community, and work on any partnership that we think makes sense for the protocol, as well as work a little bit on how we can, which chains are the best to deploy on, and how we can get good creators there and cool markets that really, really add value. That's it.
So let's talk about markets, right? We have seen Euler's past iteration, which was kind of like Aave, but had a lot of really cool tooling. You could auto leverage, auto loop stuff, sort of like swap collaterals. It was really cool. Then Euler V2 came out, and you went with this like marketed and utilizing curator type of system, which reminds us a little bit of Morpho. And I know you guys have said, well, you could build Morpho on top of Euler. You could build Aave on top of Euler. And now recently we saw Usual literally build their own market on top of Euler. Can you sort of explain what Euler V2 is and how it differs
Yeah.
from your traditional money market?
So Euler V2, I try to, a lot of people use the word like modular and all of that, but honestly, like it's a bit of a buzzword. What we like to say, the way I like to explain it is flexible. So Euler is a very flexible protocol. And what I mean by flexible is that you can pretty easily build any kind of market that you want. So the markets that you can build go from a very simple pair, let's say USDC with, to it can be a very complex market with like, I don't know, 50 assets, all of which are collateral and borrow to each other, right? So you can build, from the isolated pair, ungoverned, right? Immutable, a massive 50 asset market or more, where you can change parameters and everything and add collaterals and remove them on a constant basis. You can build either on Euler and everything in between. So it is quite complex and a lot to take, and I think it wasn't for the market in the beginning. And it took a bit of a while for so-called, curators, which is a great word, thing invented by Morpho, actually, to come and build markets that suit the needs of the users and the protocols as well. Because I think protocols benefit from these markets to grow, the asset issuers, etc. But you've seen since the beginning that, on ETH mainnet, we've had some pretty cool markets. So Euler Prime, obviously, which is governed by Euler DAO, risk managed by, or curated, we could say, by Gauntlets. Euler Yield, focused on stable coins. Euler Prime is kind of like similar, I would say, to like Aave, for example. Again, simplified Euler Prime. Then you have more thematic markets. So Apostro, which are really cool curators, launched a while ago a BTC-focused markets with all the Bitcoin and Bitcoin derivative assets and some PTs there. Then there's the other apostrophe market with Resolve that went pretty well. And other yield with stables and stable derivatives.
Oh, you
And
can
then
literally sort by the. You guys call him governor. You can
ex-
sort by the governor instead of.
exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
yeah,
Apostro. Oh, neat.
exactly. And there's many more to come. So really the idea is because it's flexible and you can build anything you want. You want, experienced teams to come
Mm-hmm.
and build markets that are specific to a use case or to a type of risk profile or to a trade. But ultimately, anyone could come and build a market if they wanted to. There would just be the only, I would say, differences if you want to have your market featured. You want your market to be governed, you want to retain governance, and you want it to be featured on the front end. This requires a few more check marks, but yeah, we need the curators to grow, and we rely on their experience, creativity, and vision of the market to create interesting markets and that can adapt to market conditions and to trends.
So, like, what does a curator really do? I know like RE7, MEV Capital, Steakhouse, Apostro. These guys
Yeah,
are like running these markets, and my understanding from talking to Apostro is that like they will decide what can be collateral, what can be borrowed against which collateral. They
yeah.
also, I think, set the risk parameters. So like they will set the LLTVs and LTVs and I think they have some say over the interest rate curves. Is what of that is true, and what have I gotten wrong?
No, I think the rumors are pretty right, and you're leaving also some other things out that they are um that they're that they have control on and manage, right? So you could use the word creator or manager. They really run the market. So what does it mean? Before it's launched, they decide on what is going to be the initial version of it. And as you said, it goes from deciding which assets are in the market, which ones are borrow assets, which ones are collateral, which ones are both. Which asset is linked to which asset? Because within a market, you could have an asset that is only collateral of one borrow asset, or you could have all of them linked together if you wanted to, right? So they decide on all of this. They decide on the supply caps, super important, right? I mean, you don't want to go and launch a market with an asset that has very thin liquidity on chain and put in unlimited supply caps and run into bad debt risks if there's a liquidation. They decide on the LLTVs, obviously. They also decide on the oracles, right? Now, this is a super
Mm,
important choice.
that's
They
interesting.
decide. What have I forgotten? They decide on the name of the market, obviously. They can decide on points integrations if these are there. They should help and push. And that's before the market's launched. When it's launched, then they have a very active role. So they will monitor closely, obviously, all of the risk conditions to see, okay, do I increase a cap? Do I lower it? Do I change the LLTVs? And so on and so forth. They can even change oracles if they wanted to. Obviously, there are some time locks and procedures to do that. But they can always make sure the market is optimal on all fronts. If there is a new asset or an asset that's growing or makes sense to be added as collateral or as a borrow, they can obviously do that. And what they also really contribute to, in my opinion, is then the growth of that market in particular and the growth of other as a protocol because they do attract liquidity. Having a good curator that knows what they're doing, that has good links with the projects to get incentives, to get points, to make sure a market is optimal for a certain trade helps attract TVL and helps it grow. So they are absolutely essential to the growth of Euler and other protocols like Morpho and others that use the creator model. I think it's amazing because you don't just rely on the core team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you know what I mean. So it can really help
Yeah.
the protocol live and always be competitive in the future because you have all of these creators there that are always trying to push new markets, cool markets, and adapt to trends. I always like to compare this, Euler, and you could say Morpho is similar, and other guys that use a creator model, to a mall. You know, you have a mall, and what you gotta make sure about, this mall is that you always have like really good shops there
Right.
and really good, competitive, shops or bars or coffees or restaurants. And then these curators, they're the manager of this individual shop, and they make sure they have the best products, right? Because this is cool because um, the mall is always going to live it is if it always has like good shops and good coffees and good restaurants
So I mean,
that can adapt to the trends.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's like Euler is the mall. You need good shops. You need good curators who are. The interesting thing here is that curators are also highly incentivized to bring in liquidity. So we've seen this with like Steakhouse creating their own assets. I think actually a few of them have their own assets where they basically offer some sort of TradFi product that brings in stablecoin liquidity. It's kind of like a hedge fund, and then they deposit that into all the places they're curating or governing. And so like they're heavily incentivized to bring in liquidity onto these markets because they get some sort of portion of the fees that DeFi users are willing to pay to hyper leverage these interest bearing assets. So it's this very fascinating network of like symbiotic activity. Now, you guys have a few new markets. I just saw Swell Chain, and I was a little bit distracted because did someone because like the wrapped EtherFi ETH has such a high yield here. So just to show you guys for a second, I know like low liquidity guys, don't bite my head off, but apparently wrapped EtherFi ETH has a 15% yield right now because people are borrowing it. I have no idea why people would be borrowing wrapped EtherFi ETH, but they are. And so there's $1 million supplied so far, $1 million of supply. It's a small market. So if anyone is on Swell, first, why? But second, if you are, you can leverage this and look at that. So like wrapped EtherFi ETH against RS ETH is 119% organic yield. That's insane to me. But what this goes to show you what kind of interesting things you can do when you have sort of like this weird mishmash of free markets. You're also coming to some other chains. I know I'm all over the place here, but you're on Swell now. Sonic just kind of went live in the front end. There's no markets available yet, but you also announced something about Unichain. Can you kind of explain which chains you're coming to and what that's going to look like?
Yeah, of course. So, by the way, like if you guys want to loop like EtherFi ETH and ETH, there's like tons of liquidity on ETH mainnet for that, and more coming. But so about the chain, so yeah, we have ETH mainnet that's been going well. This is obviously our home, and we'll always be supporting and growing this market. We went onto Base, which is going really well. Cross 50 million TVR there. I don't know if you saw, there's like some nice incentives on USDS and some lot of liquidity that you can borrow on USDS on Base. This is going to continue growing. Really happy about that campaign with the Sky team. Now about Swell, we launched their very interesting chain and market. We're waiting for the liquidity on secondary markets to pick up a bit, so we can increase caps and get more looping going on over there. Sonic, very very soon. I always get in trouble for giving dates because then yeah, I always get in trouble with the, with the product team.
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's very, very soon. It's a matter of days. There are some very cool markets that have been developed by curators that you've probably heard of, RE7 MEV, that are going to be there and more. I'm very excited about what the Sonic, team has built. Unichain contracts are deployed. Front end is getting built right now. To launch on a new chain, you need a number of things. You need, obviously, you need for the chain to be live, and then you can deploy the contract, which is not the hardest thing to do. But then what takes a bit more time is to get the front end adapted, to that new chain. It takes a bit more than just having the little logo on the scroll down and the same layout. It's about linking this to the smart contracts, etc. You also need to make sure that you get curators on board. You need to make sure that there's enough assets, right? Like, what's going to be borrowed, what's going to be collateral on that chain. Does it make sense? And then you need to make sure there's sufficient like DEX liquidity so that supply caps are not like super small and ridiculous. So there's Unichain. In terms of other chains, I mean, I don't want to say too many names before it's official, but you can probably look at it and start onto our into our docs. We're looking at some chains in the Bitcoin BTC Fi.
Oh, really?
I would say world.
There's so many of those, and I have such a hard time knowing which ones are going to be winners and which ones are not. They'd have to be EVM, right? So I don't even know which chains are Bitcoin EVM.
So there are quite a few. Let me check if there's which ones I can. I don't know which ones I can.
Tell us. That's. I mean, it is
but
fascinating.
Yeah, there's a few of the main ones.
Root?
Like I don't think
is it Root? I know Rootstock was like one Bitcoin EVM.
We do speak with the Rootstock team, and we're in discussions.
Okay.
I don't know if it's going to be the first one, but there's definitely quite a few. We like chains like Ink quite a lot. In the sense that I believe if you want to go and look at the next wave of users and capital that can come into DeFi, you need to go a little bit beyond what exists already, and a chain that has an exchange on which we're listed as well is something that can make sense. You saw what Morpho did with Coinbase. We're very, very aligned with that strategy and that vision, and this is what the modularity of Euler is really good for, right? Because you could really literally create markets that are specific to these Web2 fintechs, DEXs, platforms, and the need that exists there.
We should talk about that vertical, because you guys just did that. I want to understand the usual market, because I'll admit that I kind of understand it. Like, Usual has built their own money market using Euler to loop at a fixed rate USD 0 ++ against USD 0 with like a fixed oracle. So that's like fantastic for yield leveragers and farmers, and even people who want to potentially speculate on that emissions. Before we get there, though, I have a question about oracles, because oracles are insanely important on money markets. I think many of us have been around long enough to either have experienced liquidation, myself certainly included, not on Euler, but using looping, right? Looping, one of the most popular strategies in DeFi, if not the most popular strategy, certainly by TVL. But oracles present a specific risk. Now, you said that the curator or the governor is the one who chooses the oracle, but you guys are nice enough to have a UI that shows the oracles being used on the front end. But if I'm looking at this USDS, so many S's, market, I'm seeing 3 different oracles. How do I, as a DeFi degen leverager, determine, am I dealing with a market oracle or am I dealing with a fundamental oracle when I come over here and I see 3 different oracles?
So let me just look at this one in particular.
Oh yeah, I'll send you a link. Sending a link in the chat here, just so you don't get lost in the sauce. And then I'm going to open these oracles. I'm sure, actually, I haven't looked at Pyth oracles before. I assume that they're similar. You need a rule to figure out which oracles are used in which condition. Yeah, I think that could be useful, certainly for users, because we want to know, like, fundamental NAV, or is it market? All are fine, but we have to know what risk you're getting into. So I'm going to click reconfirm.
Yeah, that's some really good feedback there. Yeah. Which market is that?
So though I sent a link to you.
That's Base. That's on Base. Yeah. Okay.
So this is on Base. Yeah. Yep. Pyth Oracle. Let's see if they don't have a description. What kind? You know what? Pyth. I was so bullish on your guys' oracles, but the fact that you don't put a description in there makes me so bearish now. Let's see.
Yeah, like
the address of the base asset. So there's a base asset. I'm going to guess this is USDS. No, it is. Oh, yeah, Sky Deploy. Yeah, USDS. Okay, so that's the base asset. That's cool. So it kind of makes me feel like we're dealing with the NAV, but let's see. Oh, goodness. Okay, you know what? Pyth oracles, not as easy to read. I will say that. And then, oh my gosh, none of these have descriptions. Trailing price feed. Okay.
Yeah, that's something we should definitely add. You're right.
Well, because I mean, or just like have a text box for the curators to like type in a description of the oracle. So when we hover over it, it'll have a little something that lets us know. Because oftentimes what I end up doing is I'll like message the curator or message the governor and be like, what kind of oracle is being used here? Or I'll even, bug you guys, which I know, not everyone can do that. Because if everyone did that, you guys would have nonstop DMs from idiots like me trying to ask about oracles. And two, not everyone gets responses. So yeah, I mean, that would be awesome because it's so important for leveragers specifically.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Well, you know what? Hey, keep saying that. Boost my ego in the morning. Everyone, say I'm absolutely right because I'm sorry. I'm kidding. Mara can tell you that I am wrong most of the time, so I'll take it. I'll take the ones when I can get them. Okay, but now, so cool. And you can click on these oracles, and I'm sure if we spent like another 5 minutes, we could certainly figure out which oracles these were. But I'm not going to waste everyone's time watching. It's definitely like something we do in the chat kind of frequently is like, hey guys, which oracle, can you help me understand this? So if there is an oracle that you guys are looking for, feel free to like always message us in like the dojo chat. We will try to suss out what oracles are being used. I'm saying that to everyone else here. Now tell us about the usual market. I saw that, I think, on Ethereum, and I didn't know if this was the right thing. I'm pretty sure it was. How do you access that usual market? And two, what is it?
So click on market. Now you need to go on Eat Mainnet. You see it? And then you go usual stability low.
Oh, there it is. It wasn't there. Okay. All right. Cool. Supply away 13%. But I only see. Oh, wait. Borrow. Okay. Let's see. Borrow. Market is usual. So this is what I was confused with. There was nothing to borrow. You can only deposit as collateral.
One sec. Let me open it.
Because it also says collateral exposure. You can, yeah. Maybe I'm crazy here. I don't understand how this works.
So the way, like, what do you mean you don't sound like you can't access the market?
Oh no. Oh, well, maybe. My interpretation of what was going to happen here was that Usual was going to spin up a market that allowed users to borrow USD 0 against USD 0 plus plus to leverage up the yield at a fixed borrow cost. That's what I thought was going to happen. But if I go to the market, I can't borrow against it. I can only add it as collateral, but there's nothing to borrow against that collateral. So I'm wondering, like, is there a different front end? Are they only using this as like the back end for their own front end? Or am I misinterpreting what the purpose of this is? I'm just trying to figure out like what this is. And if you're not the right person for that question, that's totally fine.
Yeah, I'm just wondering because there was something that was
I saw, you know what? I
yeah,
should
let me
look
come
at
back to you on this one.
Yeah, I should look at the Twitter post about this. Here we go. I'll try to. Usuals first governance rules, UIP, blah, 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 blah. What is USL? Okay. It allows users to borrow USD0 against USD0++ at a fixed interest rate. So this is going to happen. And they say a bunch of stuff that, okay. Well, okay. So that is the goal, to borrow USD0 against USD0++ at a fixed rate. That's fantastic. Now, when that will be available, who knows? Maybe they have their own front end. I don't know. If anyone in the chat knows, let us know. But that's kind of why I was confused. But like, okay. So speaking of this, it's an unusual market. There we go, Mara. Speaking of this, what can you explain sort of like what the whole deal is with these though? Because I think the vertical is that other protocols will want to have a proprietary money market. I mean, you could say that like the Resolve market is kind of like a proprietary like market for the Resolve protocol, except it's being managed by Apostro. But this is built on top of Euler. Whereas I think Usual is building their own money market and front end that's using Euler on the back end, but maybe I'm even wrong there. Can you explain sort of like the vertical of other people using Euler as the building blocks for their own money market?
Yeah, so basically, you're right. Like this role and like the for the Resolve market could have been managed and like curated and stuff by Resolve themselves. The difference is that it's not really their job to do that, right?
Right, and there are
So
legal
if
issues
they
with that
really
too.
wanted to, exactly, if they wanted to, they could actually do this. Causes two problems. First of all, you guys need to run a protocol. They have a lot of you know a lot of priorities on a daily basis to do that, and it's not their expertise to be a risk manager. The second one is that I think it can also cause some conflicts of interest with the lenders, right? Because as a protocol, your goal is to, let's say, maximize looping as much as you can and leverage on these assets, on USR, etc., etc. Whereas, maybe which could come at the expense of the suppliers of the borrow assets. So I think it's important to have, first of all, an expert in risk management and curation that does this, that is an independent third party. And then, for the conflicts of interest, and then for the skill and resource you can allocate to like just running these markets.
So that's cool. And one of the concerns here, or maybe not concern, but questions you might get is we have seen this emerging narrative, I think, this cycle of Chaos and Gauntlet doing like all of the risk management or risk analysis for virtually every money market on chain. Now, that's cool. But also, like we've seen, what's that guy? Open Zeppelin. So I was talking to a team recently. I'm not going to say which team, and they were saying that Open Zeppelin charges $100,000 to do a risk assessment of a collateral, and after that, like you have to pay for it, regardless of whether or not you end up listing that collateral on your money market. So let's just say there's a money market, and they say, "Oh, this new, RWA looks fantastic. We'd like to list it." Let's pay $100,000 to have a team do a risk analysis and see if it's good. And whether or not they like it, they still have to do that. That's like half of the entire cost to list the asset. The other half would be the development and whatever other management. With this model, it's kind of completely different. You're letting the governors and the curators take on all of the risk to list the collateral, and a user is not trusting the protocol for the collateral. A user is trusting the protocol for the mechanics, and they're trusting the governor for the collateral exposure. Is that roughly a correct way to analyze the differences between like an Euler type and like an Aave type?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the numbers and the costs that you described, but it seems to be quite high. On Euler, it doesn't cost anything to list a collateral, right? I mean, at the end of the day, what's at stake, and I think the cost of making something using a bad collateral is that your market might not be functioning, and then it's the reputation of the curator and the relationship with the suppliers and the lenders, right? That's
Right.
what's really at cost in the stake. But there is no upfront cost, nothing. Curators make money from fees, the ones that launch these markets and manage them, and the fees come when there is interest is paid, right? So let's say you set a fee of 10%, then it means then 10% of the interest will go the to the curation of the vaults, and out of that, 50% goes to Euler DAO. But yeah, it's a success fee model. There's no upfront cost. I mean, except the gas to set up the market, but like that's normal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. DeFi Dojo curator coming 2026. We're going to curate everywhere.
Wow.
And launch our
Why
own
not
token.
before?
We're going to incentivize. We're going to incentivize. I don't know. It's actually it's interesting to see. One, the some curators have actually tried to incentivize by like partnering up with Turtle Club or whomever else to try to say, well, hey, our market's going to be better. And it's also tangentially interesting to see that there are like a list of 15 curators here, but that's not that many considering like the potential tailwinds and benefits from being a curator. We've also seen this on Camino, but like that's a totally different discussion. And the fascinating. Okay, so here's my next question: is like I said, I've talked to so many markets, and they're saying it's $100,000 to do a risk analysis for collateral. On Euler, can any asset be listed as collateral?
So if you want to create an immutable market that's ungoverned, you could put any asset you want.
Mm-hmm.
But you'd still need to have the asset covered by an oracle. That's a requirement we have, which is one that we've integrated with. So yeah, technically you could add any asset as long as it's covered by an oracle and it's in ERC20, etc.
Right. So there is like some layer
now,
of risk protection, even at that layer.
Yeah, there is, and where there's even more risk protection is like when the market is governed, right? Because when the market is governed, you can't change parameters like that. You need to make sure that supply caps are well done, that there's a liquidation bot everywhere. So there is some level of risk protection, but ultimately, if a curator wants to launch a market that is risk on, they're free to do it. And before using the protocol and that market in particular, you have to check what's in there, what the LTVs are, what the collaterals are. If you borrow, watch out for liquidations and so on and so forth.
So a question that I got is what like there is this market Resolve, it's RLP USDC, and let me go to borrow, and it uses let me just go market Resolve RLP USR, no, RLP USDC. So it uses fundamental oracles. I think Chainlink Finger Oracle. Oh, maybe this one doesn't. Okay, that's smart. Well, so this is actually better. But let me go back to RLP USR. I think that was the one that raised an eyebrow, because the way it works, I think, and I could be wrong here, is that there is a fixed rate oracle. Let me click on this one for RLP USR that pegs it 1-to-1 with USR, which is pretty wild if that's how it works. And maybe it's not, because there's two oracles, and that's one of the things that still confuses me, is why are there two oracles? But RLP has the ability to go negative because it's a junior tranche. So we saw recently it took like a 10 bip hit and has like slowly been recovering. In the event that it went super negative, took like a 5 or 10% hit, you could imagine a case where the collateral value was worth less than the debt value, but the oracle didn't pick that up. So I'm wondering, like, who takes the fallout for events like that?
So what you're saying is, because that's a fixed rate oracle?
Yes. So it has, so this is a fixed rate oracle that's 1-to-1 with, I want to say this is USR. Yep, Resolve USR. Even though RLP is a junior tranche and has totally different risk profile than USR, and can have can go negative. Like the price can go down for RLP by a natural mechanism.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think in that case you could have a situation of bad debt. But that's the posters market, so I'll let them comment on that. But yeah, that is a possibility there.
Which is a question. So, like, I think one of the things to understand about Euler is that it's unlike with other money markets where they're taking 100% of the responsibility and you only have like 5 collateral types because of that. Here, you're sort of choosing your risk exposure. You're saying, I trust Apostro to analyze the risk for me, and maybe like there's maybe the chain link infrequent oracle, which I don't understand. It's RLP USD is doing some of the magic here, but yeah, I mean, just like point being that the exposure is different in that you are exposing yourself to the risk analysis of the governors, not the risk analysis of the protocol.
Oh yeah, because like the governor has ultimate, like the I would say the risk safeguards that we put are basic to with regards to the multi-sig and time log to change parameters and several other factors. But at the end of the day, the curator, as their name says it, decides on what they want the market to look like, and users should really check the parameters and the collaterals and the exposures and the oracles before depositing. So yeah, that's what I told you. Like you can create any kind of market you want, some risk on ones, some more vanilla ones, and it's up to the users to do their DD.
Sweet. Okay, so Mara, we'll see you later. Actually, I'll see you in like 13 minutes. We have a few more questions. One, Royal. I've explained this a few times. I think I understand it. At least I understood like the tokenomics of the emissions, which is, if I go over to click on Royal, like when you are getting Royal, you're effectively able to claim 25% of the value immediately. The other 75% would get burnt, which is kind of cool, kind of makes it deflationary, ultrasound money. Or you can invest it over 6 months for the total value of your Royal in oil. One, I'm pretty sure that's correct. But then two, what is the use case for the actual token? And will you have soil, which is like staked oil?
That would be cool. Yeah. The use case of the token, you mean like the utility of the token?
Yes.
And right now, it's a pure governance token.
Mm-hmm.
The system that is cool is that, I told you 50% of the fees are paid to Euler DAO. The fees are obviously not generated in EUL, so they're basically converted into EUL and given back to the DAO. So this creates some buy pressure on the market, which is quite interesting.
Is that the fee flow thing that we see? It's like a reverse.
Yeah, it's the fee flow thing. Yeah.
Okay, can you explain this to me like I'm a toddler?
Yeah. So basically, like, you just open it again, so I can give you a concrete example there.
Oh, I have it open on if you're watching my screen share.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, like, you have some sort of a reverse auction, which means that there is an amount of fees that are up for claim basically, and you have to bid in EUL for these. And after some time, this finished, so the highest bid wins, and usually there's some sort of delta,
Or premium or something,
delta
right?
there.
So
Yeah, exactly, that you can make.
So a Dutch auction means like right now I'm seeing max claimable. There's $476 to claim. but the auction price is 13,000. So something. So which does the auction price go down over time, or does the max claimable go up?
I think the max claimable should be going down as time goes because
What?
more people bid.
What? Wouldn't the max claimable go? Man, okay. So this is why I'm confused here. So people use oil to bid on the fees, and the auction. So Dutch auction means price goes down until someone says that they want to buy. Man, I know like Somalia also did this, but with like you had to use the back end to do this, but he gave a front end for it. I think I understand, but I'm clearly not. Bid in oil on Ethereum at any time and claim up to 10 vault fees at once. Oh, okay. So you can claim all of these vault fees. So this is all of, got it. This is all of the fees that are available to be claimed.
Is that you bid in EUL?
Yes.
See?
Yeah. But it says current auction price is like $13,000. Why is the auction price so high versus the max claimable? Oh, look, it went down, I think. Yeah, right? I think that's how it works. So my understanding is that max claimable is going to go up over time and auction price is going to go down over time until the auction price goes below the max claimable. And that's when like some sort of bot would claim for some sort of premium.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think it sounds good. It sounds about right. Okay, cool. So I know I've done a lot of the questioning and asking and not really giving you a moment to say, any announcements or like what you guys are interested in. What else does Euler have going on, or what have I missed?
Honestly, we've discussed like a lot of this, but yeah, you should see a lot of new markets coming up, onboarding new curators, new chain deployments, some great product features that are coming that will enhance and ease distribution, which should be really really interesting for not only the existing markets that should be getting easier liquidity this way, but also curators that want to have some more, I would say, passive yield solutions for their audience, for their LPs. That's, I would say, in the immediate future. Longer term, like everyone, we're really looking into how we can address how the protocol can adapt and address the needs of sexes, of fintechs, of more traditional TradFi. These are all different use cases, but that use the same underlying, protocol and possibility to create vaults and markets that are fit for every use case, depending on risk parameters, depending on even uh, permissioning, I would say, specificities that you need depending on who's the ultimate supplier in these vaults. You could really imagine like some markets that are targeted towards fintechs and TradFis that are a bit more permission. You could imagine also some markets focused on RWAs. That is a use case we really believe in, and not only like the classic T-bill stuff, but also tokenized stocks and all that we're working on. So yeah, short term it's more markets, more creators, and new chains. And long term, medium to long term, is new distribution methods.
Well, that is a bunch of verticals. Hopefully all that happens and gives some tailwinds to the oil token. It also looks like, so yesterday we saw some like a UI thing going on where like the PT wrap stake USR was not showing the correct supply PY. That's been fixed. That's fantastic. Yeah, I think that's like all the questions that I can think of. Oh no, actually, last one. You guys have automatic looping. Now, with automatic looping, typically something has to get routed through some sort of swap mechanism. So my question is, How do you guys route your swaps?
You mean if we use like aggregators, etc.?
Yes, exactly right. So like, let's say I'm swapping using the PT from, I think this is actually a Spectra PT, but like a PT, and it has to swap, the borrowed USDC back into maybe wrap staked USR, then into the PT. Like that process, depending on how you're doing on the back end, could be super expensive because you're routing through some inefficient mechanism, or it could be hyper efficient. And I just want to know, like, how do you guys route? Do you aggregate, or do you use like 1inch, or what's going on there?
Yeah, I think we're using aggregators for best execution. Um, yeah, I think that's the case.
Okay. All right. Awesome. And then I'll ask in the chat to see if there's like a specific aggregator you guys use, or if you guys do your own aggregation. I think Contango sort of built their own, which is kind of cool. As an aside. Well, any last words of wisdom for the good of the order?
We use Li-Fi as an aggregator, I know for sure.
Oh, perfect. Sweet. Well, we'll end on that high note. Yes. So currently, Sonic looks like on the front end. That should be coming out soon. Uni Chain as well, guys. Go check out Euler. I know most of you already have. A lot of us are currently already using it. I just saw the BTC Fi Apostro market. Liquidity is building there, but some great BTC strategies over there. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Antoine, thank you as well for your wonderful answers, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.